we have a presidential candidate that we're going to be talking to, and I'm excited about this. Candidate Trump, in about. Well, should we just do this now and then?
We can just do this now.
Okay, great. Well then, let's why not do this? Let's do this now then. Her name is Sorinne Ardeleanu. I'm not sure the pronunciation. Seeking the Libertarian Party nomination for president, and looking forward to meeting her. It's a very hopeful campaign.
Hello.
Hi. How are you, Sorinne? Nice to meet you. Thank you for being our guest.
I'm well, thank you. It's an honor to be here.
Oh, thank you. So I'm very interested in your presidential bid. I don't have much to go on, so forgive me if I'm just building off of what I do have. Now, your campaign's introductory mailer, you mentioned that you want to help unite, heal, and empower more human beings to thrive in all aspects of life, which are admirable goals. But how would you, as president, try to bring that unity and healing that you seek?
Well, the short answer is with reason and love, because I feel that we're living in a world where most people are driven by their emotions and they're not taught how to reason correctly. And as far as love goes, most people don't even know how to love themselves. And so how can we expect them to love others? And so as a leader, and if I am president, I see myself as being somebody who is leading by example, teaching what love looks like in action and not actually speaking about it, because I see a lot of people talk about love. It's great in theory, but to actually apply it in all that you do, your thoughts, words, and actions, it's another process. And that's what the world needs is, for the leadership to come from the top. How do we treat one another? How do we treat ourselves? And to reason, again, that's the biggest aspect of it, is learning how to reason and teaching people how to take the emotion out, because right now the path that we're currently on is very self-destructive. Mm-hmm. I'm looking at our country and the world as a unit, because our actions affect the rest of the globe, not just our own people. And so we need to think about the future of humanity and not just our country.
So for the future of humanity, this is the candidate.
I don't know if you know the rule, but you have to be over 35 years old to run for president.
I was going to point that out myself. I think
you were.
Thank you. Thank you.
Right. Well, that's she would be undoubtedly, if you are in fact over the appropriate age, the youngest president we've ever had, and that's exciting.
What was your opinion on Gary Johnson's run last election as Libertarian candidate?
I admit I didn't follow it too closely. I was inspired by him because I felt like he was the most rational candidate in the party that was running. So that was exciting, and I did vote for him. But I've just really surrendered to this calling in the past year and started paying attention more, only because I've spent the past 10 years working on myself, because I realized that I had to have my own house in order before I try to help others. Mm-hmm. And so I really had to understand, how does the human mind work? What influences behavior? How does health work? Not versus what we have today is a lot of people are diseased and just managing symptoms. I want to learn how to be healthy inside out and in a sustainable way. And so I mentioned that because it's really important for people to understand I'm a little bit of an outlier in the group. And so even though I may not know the specifics of all the politics that have been going on, I understand human behavior. And I understand how to thrive, and that's what I bring to the table, and that's what I believe everybody actually needs.
And I think that's a good sign.
How they operate.
Gary Johnson's campaign was pretty dull, and he didn't even put anything out there, and then he got caught not knowing Aleppo or whatever, and then he kind of fell apart. But I feel like the Libertarian Party needs a new face just to gain momentum in the party.
Right. Now, what you've mentioned, you have sort of a journey to talk about. Tell me about yourself. Where do you come from, and what's happened to you?
Well, both of my parents are immigrants. My mother came from Russia in the 70s. She was ethnically Jewish, and Jews were not welcome there, and they were basically given, a hall pass to leave the country. And my father defected from Romania in the 70s for religious freedom. He literally ran across the border and risked his life getting shot by a guard who happened to turn the other way. And he came here for religious freedom because he's a composer and he wanted to compose music for God. So I kind of have that in my DNA. And as far as, freedom and, doing whatever I want to do in my square foot of space as long as it doesn't bother anybody else. And I believe that everybody deserves that freedom as well. We all have different paths to take. So being a child and an only child of immigrant parents, I grew up really poor. My parents were divorced when I was 3. So I lived on welfare, food stamps, Section 8, financial aid in San Francisco.
In San Francisco.
And I went to a school that was predominantly Asian, and I didn't have many friends because I didn't look like everybody else, and I was really depressed. I wrote about suicide when I was 10 years old because I felt like I didn't belong. And, that was my journey for a long time. And, I've had very severe PTSD as an adult because of basically I was abused every day of my life till I ran away from home when I was 14. I found my dad at the time and I lived with him. I graduated high school in 2.5 years, started college in Maryland at the time, and came back to San Francisco when I was 18 because I didn't fit in there either. Even though everyone was white, my father was darker skinned, being from Romania, and he had an accent, and people would call him Habib, even though that is not a Romanian name.
Jeez, that's not even close.
No, yeah.
At least go with Dracula.
Go with some kind of a Romanian slur. Yeah.
But, this just goes to show that these people didn't really understand that, ethnically, like, I'm Caucasian. My family is. We may be a little bit darker, not me, but my father and my grandparents were. But we didn't look like everybody else.
I see a Caucasian when I look at you for sure. I mean, no question about it.
But, but living in these different environments has really helped me to realize that, our environments form us, that our beliefs come from our environments. And they've also made me realize, like, I'm not that special. Like, we're all special. Because I got jumped when I was 8 years old for being white in a predominantly black neighborhood. Right? I got mugged when I was 13 for wearing a blue Adidas jacket,
So, wait, man, you grew up in a black neighborhood and went to an Asian school.
Yeah.
Wow.
My mom tried really hard for me to have the best education. I went to parochial school.
But she abused you every day.
Yeah, unfortunately. But, and
you're remarkably forgiving in the way you speak about her. You seem to speak about her with a lot of admiration and gratitude, So I guess that's part of what you've learned in the last few years.
Well, yeah. And what I've realized is that people hurt each other or others because they don't know better and because they're hurt themselves, right? Like, my mom didn't know how to influence my behavior with integrity, so she tried to influence my behavior with force and fear, and that doesn't work because I rebelled. I got in a lot of trouble when I was younger, and I had to learn a lot of lessons the hard way because I wasn't allowed to have boundaries, right? Like, children in abusive relationships with parents end up typically being very codependent, people pleasers, and not pleasing themselves. And this is why love is a big part of what I want to teach and show the world, because many parents don't know how to love their children, even if they don't abuse them, typically, or not love their children, but love themselves, right? They don't know how to set examples. Most people are not born into money, right? So their parents make sacrifices for them and oftentimes putting themselves second. And so the children learn that behavior as well. And so it carries on, so we tend to put others ahead of us. And ultimately, like, you have to take care of yourself before you can take care of anybody else.
That's
right?
what they say, yeah.
You have to be healthy. You can't help somebody get higher than you if you're not at that higher level.
Yeah, I mean, get high. You can't even help somebody get high unless you love. And what sorts of ways did you act out?
Oh, I became promiscuous at a very young age. I started hanging out with people that weren't good for me. When I was 18, 19, I had friends that ended up getting in trouble for white-collar crimes. I hung out with strippers and porn stars, and, I had freedom for the first time when I became 18, and so I was doing whatever I could. I got all kinds of piercings on my body. I didn't respect myself.
Right.
Right? Because nobody had ever respected me, so why should I? I didn't understand my own value. I just wanted to be loved and accepted. And so I thought that if I just did whatever anybody else wanted, like I had learned at home, that I would be loved and accepted.
I knew a
But
few
that
women
didn't
like
feel
that.
helpful.
Yeah, very, very similar, right? Yeah. It's fantastic that you have, well, first of all, the optimism, now at this point to, because it is an optimistic bid. I mean, I guess you would concede you're a long shot.
I've always been an outlier, though, and so that's very exciting to me because I realize, like, if I were to believe in statistics or odds, I wouldn't be alive today. Or if I was, I wouldn't be like this. I'd probably be a junkie, incarcerated, who knows what, right? Like, those are what the statistics say about people like me. That something like the odds, and I know that I can help others beat the odds as well.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry, Garrett.
So would you say rebuilding the family is your number one issue or policy or whatever I would call it? I don't know.
No, I mean, obviously that's a big part of my story, but like I said, it's much deeper. It's teaching love. It's teaching self-love.
But don't you think if you made families better, kept husbands and wives together and all that would just work itself out in the long run anyway with the love part?
You have to be there to love.
Yeah.
Yes and no. I mean, some people shouldn't be together. Some people are together for the wrong reasons. And had my parents stayed married, I don't know what would have happened because they were always fighting. My father broke my mother's nose at one point. It wasn't a healthy environment for me either. Mm-hmm. So it's,
But then on the other side, it's like 50% of the houses are single parent houses. So that's bad too. We need some sort of some sort of meet in the middle there.
Yeah, that's true. And it's a bad position that she was in personally, because it seems as if as the only child of the two, that your dad was beating up on your mom on you, and then there's no siblings.
Yeah,
to sort of like you're the last link in that chain, in other words. But this idea of teaching love as president, what would this be through policy or through executive order?
It would be through example, but also so here's more of my story. So I've always been a natural connector wherever I go in life. And starting from a young age, I've attracted very powerful and influential people from around the world, from different walks of life. And I realized I have a gift and that I can use it for good. And so that's part of it, is being able to connect with people, other leaders, and just sitting down with them and understanding what their challenges are and getting to the causes of them. Because we seem to live in a society where we're looking at effects and addressing those instead of looking at, what's causing this behavior in the first place? What's causing this challenge in the first place? Right? We're very reactive instead of proactive. And so we end up spending more money in the long run trying to fix things, which as a libertarian, I don't believe that's our role. I don't believe government is there to bail people out for their mistakes. I believe government is there to create order and guidelines and set examples on how to do things. That society is here to work together to figure things out, right? Government is just here to maintain the peace. And if people hurt one another, then there is punishment. But as long as you're not hurting others, do whatever you want, figure it out, because humans are very capable. But I feel like when government is interfering, it takes away humans' ability to actually solve their own problems.
I agree. I agree with that. And so you believe in smaller government then? Of
course.
Okay. Well, may I ask, how do you feel about take an issue like Second Amendment? I mean, how do you, as a libertarian, I would assume you're strongly in favor of preserving the integrity of that.
Yes, I am. So I believe that, again, this has to do with addressing causes. I was actually writing some notes about this last night. I think that, hypothetically, this isn't going to ever happen, and I'm against it. Let's say we take away everyone's gun rights, right? We're not taking away their inclination to want to harm others or themselves. They will find other ways to do that.
Probably increasing it, if anything, I would think.
Right?
Yeah.
Because humans, we're very creative. We're problem solvers, right? And so what I realized is, if we take away people's rights and people's belongings, what happens? We end up in padded rooms, isolated, because we never learn how to get along. And that's not the solution. We need to teach people how to respect each other, how to get along, how to work together. We have to have a common goal that we're all working on to realize no matter what I look like, no matter what he looks like, we're all human. We're all in this together. We're part of this human race, the species, you know, and we have to take our life on this planet as a gift. We have to treat it with respect, and that's not what we're doing right now. So a lot of my vision is about, you know, really elevating the conversation. I imagine myself speaking publicly and sharing my beliefs to help educate people, because I realize that this is quite a jump from where we are today to the ideal. This doesn't happen overnight. You know, I've been preparing for 10 years. I've been working on myself, and I realized most people don't even have 10 minutes a day to invest, right? And that's all I was doing for 10 years. So I have to be gentle as a leader and lift people up and educate. And be patient with them.
Well, Sorinne, I want to address this because it's something that I'm sure will come up at some point during your campaign. Now, and this isn't how I personally feel, but a lot of times, the press or other candidates will try to highlight a lack of experience or a lack of political acumen or knowledge or something, and use that as some sort of I guess to give I think you know what I'm saying. How would you address that?
And I've actually given this a lot of thought. So there's a reason that our founding fathers required that the president only meets 3 criteria: be at least 35 years old, be American born, and be living in the country for the past 14 years. And I realize it's because that lay people like you and I are the people. We are the majority, and that we have a perspective to offer that is in more touch with reality than somebody who is a politician who's been in that world for a long time. Right? I can't be bought. I cannot be bribed. There's nothing that somebody can do to get me.
Are you sure?
Oh, yes, I'm sure. When you were talking about that ring, no. And I have turned down money repeatedly. I will never compromise my integrity or my values, because I realize this isn't about me. This is about what's doing right for the greater good of all. And I have friends that are millionaires. I have friends that are billionaires, and I never play favorites. And they know this about me, and I never will going forward, because to me, nothing matters more than helping my human family. And that's really how I see it.
It is a bummer, isn't it? I don't know if you have friends like this, but they really, between their billionaire friends and their millionaire friends, they're always a little nicer to their billionaire friends.
Well, I stop and talk to the homeless people in San Francisco. I mentor them. I hug them. I tell them I love them, and I mean it, because I see them as a part of me. If somebody is in pain and struggling and I can help them, it's my duty to do that, because it hurts me to see others suffering, and it also helps me feel better when I see others thriving. We're all connected. I mean, there's actually science behind this. I just happen to be more sensitive to this. I know there are others that are as well, and so this is also something I want to bring into the discussion, is how we're connected and how we're affected directly and indirectly.
Are you actually standing in front of a brick wall with a heart painted on it?
I just want to radiate love everywhere I go.
You've been compared to Marianne Williamson?
Already?
All right, yeah, have you?
Actually, no, you're right. There was one person.
Oh, that's it? All right.
Well, her campaign's her campaign's very new. I think, when did you declare your candidacy?
January 9th.
Right. So
what's the technical things you have to do to run for president?
Oh, you have to file with the Federal Election Commission. You have to pick a treasurer. Okay. You have to have a name for your committee. You've got to get an employee identification number from the IRS. You have to, swear that you're following the laws. Otherwise there's big consequences.
Do you need signatures?
Excuse me?
Do you need signatures or anything like that?
No.
Oh, all right.
No.
Wow, it's funny. Yeah. You need those just to run for state senate or something, I think. Can I ask you, now that you're all set, and I just want to get all the questions in, but now you've been around through President Trump's first 3 years. How would you evaluate his performance so far in terms of what he has, policies, I guess, laws, things like that?
I didn't want to talk about him, but I'll do my best to do.
Oh, we don't have to. I'll let you duck one question if you want to.
Well, Look, I see good in everybody. Nobody is all good or all bad. We all have the potential to be either. And I believe that he knows what he's doing, but he doesn't really understand the consequences of what he's doing, because if he did, I believe that he would behave differently.
I see. Okay. Well, I could ask a million questions based on that response, but I think I'll let it go. I think it would come back in the form of more love and
Well, again, we only hurt each other ourselves because we don't know better, right? Like, why did my mom treat me the way she did? Why did those children and adults treat me and my family the way they did? They just didn't know better.
yes.
Right? So how can I hold that against them? Like, all I can do is teach them better, because now I do know better.
So Trump is sort of like the abusive parent of the country. Well, it is truly an interesting thing. I'd like to talk to you again sometime soon. Would you be willing to come back on Monday? I'd like to just check in regularly with your campaign to, just watch it progress, and to obviously, promote the fact that you're running, and tell people how to get in touch and what to do, and how to. Now I see. Web address is right under you, so everybody should go to Sorinne, SORINNE 2020.com, and sign up for her mailing list and stay in touch with updates. But would you be willing to come back and speak with us again soon?
I would love to. I have a lot to share, as long as you're willing to hold the space for me.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. Yeah. Why wouldn't we? I like her a lot better than Joe Biden.
This is a safe space for free speech, not from free speech.
That's true. That might be a good slogan. Do you have a campaign slogan yet?
I've been playing around with a few different ones. I had friends vote on them, and I'm having a hard time deciding. I think it's just going to be vision.
What are your choices? Oh, just vision might be it. Just the word vision. How about we are the people?
I'll consider that one.
Yeah. Okay. Well, great talking to you, Sorinne. How do you pronounce your last name?
So actually, my name is Sorinne.
Oh, Sorinne.
Ardeleanu.
Sorinne Ardeleanu. Okay. Well, thanks very much for joining us, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you for having
Thanks,
me.
Sorinne.
Thank you. So long.
Bye.
What a nice person.
Takes after her name, Sorinne.
She's exactly, Sorinne. She's